Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, April 19th, 2012. It is presently 7:53 a.m. This is a recording, and what else? My name is Inta Mitterbach. I'm in Lakewood, Ohio of the United States, which is a suburb just west of Cleveland, Ohio. I think you all know that by now, but anyway, I don't know what to talk about this morning. I woke up thinking about Lillian and making another video for Lillian, and I'm not sure if she likes them, but she's 5 years old, and so she's my granddaughter, and I thought I might make her a video, and I'm of course still looking and thinking about how the heck I'm going to get a job. But in the meantime, if you're interested, I thought I'd share with you. I was going to share with you one of my first college papers at Cuyahoga Community College, which is where I worked on my associate degree and received an Associate of Science, of which I had a concentration in physics and astronomy, and I was interested in NASA. I did actually make it to NASA long enough to have some exposure to it and be able to, I guess, come up with some ideas and develop some opinions and things like that. But anyway, I thought I'd share this with you. This is a paper that I wrote called the U.S. Human Space Exploration Plan. Do the benefits outweigh the risks? And this was English 1020, basically English 102. And this was written in March of 2004, 8 years ago. And my professor was Mr. Richter, and he was tough. He was tough. I really broke my back trying to write and research as well as I possibly could, and it just, I don't know if I ever did pull on an A in his class on any of my papers, but I tried, and there were some other people that I know got A's in that class, but no matter what I did, it seemed like I don't know if I ever did get an A out of that class. I don't remember what my final grade was. It might have been an A, or an A. I think I couldn't do better than an A-, but anyway, here it is. The U.S. Human Space Exploration Plan. Do the benefits outweigh the risks? On January 14th, 2004, the President of the United States, George W. Bush, announced a new space plan proposing human exploration of the Moon, Mars, and beyond. What is the justification for this plan? What is the public opinion? Is there an interest? What are the risks, and what is being done or what will be done to reduce the risk of disaster? What are the benefits, and what is the budget? The question is, should we send astronauts back to the Moon and to Mars? I think we can conclude that NASA and scientists all over the world are striving to make space flights as safe as possible. There are studies and experiments being conducted to anticipate and prevent the risks. Even though we have had accidents, the number of successes is greater than the number of accidents, and every effort is made to prevent the loss of and jeopardy to life. We have successfully flown through the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo years with great strides. Following those early years of spaceflight, we successfully launched and returned crews from over 100 shuttle missions. A trip to Mars may take several months, but it took the early explorers from Europe at least several months to cross the Atlantic, and at great expense during that time. It is my contention that the exploration of space is a natural tendency for mankind, and that we should continue expanding our horizons in the great cosmos of space and return to the Moon and send astronauts to Mars. The United States currently has 103 astronauts training and working for NASA. There have been 113 space shuttle flights, 2 shuttles, the Challenger in 1986 and the Columbia in 2003 ended in disaster, killing 14 astronauts. In 1967, 3 astronauts died aboard the Apollo space capsule at the launch pad. Excuse me. There have been 23 American astronauts lost to our space endeavors. The following excerpts show both the proposed and opposing matters to be considered for the decision to send humans to space. I support the human exploration of space. The plan. There are many factors to be considered. Some of the proposed efforts threaten the survival of existing programs that have scientific and technological value. Bush's plan is to retire the space shuttle fleet by the year 2010, of which was a quote from Washington and Bender. I'm not going to cite the quotes. I'm just going to go ahead and read through this, but I do have some quotes in here, and I will mention my sources at the end of the paper. Completion of the space station may be jeopardized due to this withdrawal. The space station is still in need of 1/3 completion and is just getting ready for utilization. The shuttle has been grounded since the Columbia explosion, but flights will be rescheduled for the completion of the International Space Station, ISS. U.S. participation in the International Space Station is going to be phased out. The shuttle program, however, has already existed beyond the number of years that had been planned for it. According to President Bush's plan, the Hubble telescope will be phased out also. It was scheduled to be retired in 2010, but the 5th maintenance servicing mission has been canceled to conform to Bush's plan that retires the space shuttle. Despite the loss of the Hubble, there are plans to replace the telescope with an improved telescope called the James Webb Space Telescope, which is scheduled to launch in 2011. Without servicing, according to John Grunsfield, NASA's chief scientist, the Hubble should continue operating until 2007 or 2008. That's Comet in the background. She just wanted a little attention. The Hubble has revolutionized astronomy. Using its images, scientists have determined the age of the universe, which is about 13.7 billion years old. The Hubble also discovered a mysterious energy called the dark force that is causing all of the objects in the universe to move apart at an accelerating rate. Within 2 decades, by 2020, the year 2020, Bush wants to put a permanent presence on the moon, and sometime after 2030, the year 2030, Bush proposes putting astronauts on Mars. Exploration robots will be sent to the moon by 2008. President Bush wants to make the moon a testing ground and jumping-off point for future missions to Mars and perhaps even to asteroids. A new crew exploration vehicle, the CEV, is going to be developed by 2008, with a manned exploration following no later than 2014. The crew exploration vehicle will be capable of shuttling crew to the International Space Station and beyond our orbit to other worlds. Using the crew exploration vehicle, we will undertake extended human missions to the moon as early as 2015, with the goal of living and working there for increasingly extended periods. And that was a quote from President Bush. Justification. NASA's vision is to improve life here, to extend life to there, and to find life beyond. NASA's mission is to understand and protect our home planet, to explore the universe and search for life, to inspire the next generation of explorers as only NASA can. The scientific lure of Mars is very strong, but not strong enough to justify human spaceflight. What is human spaceflight for? What is a space station for? What do we get back? Spin-off arguments can't justify the program, of which I don't know if everyone knows what spin-offs are, but spin-offs are what comes from the ideas, the science, and the technology that develops from scientific programs and research. So anyway, spin-off arguments can't, well, with regard to NASA anyway, spin-off programs, there's something called technology transfer, of which is probably an example of a spin-off program or idea, spin-off ideas, technology that's developed, and this isn't in the paper, this is kind of an improvisation. Technology transfer is something I learned about when I was working at CAS Incorporated in Huntsville, Alabama, of which is basically you have technology that has been developed, it exists, maybe it was classified, maybe it was developed by the military or the government, and they take a look at that and try to apply that in a commercial way or in a way that can be released and utilized by the public for the public. Something that had originally been developed and can be used, that technology can basically be used for something else. So, anyway, on with the paper. The government could invest money directly in technology development. The need to maintain our aerospace industry is important, but it is not a strong enough argument to justify a program of human spaceflight. What is the value? According to President Bush, we've undertaken space travel because the desire to explore and understand is part of our character. Exploration of the moon is being planned to contribute to the Mars exploration missions. The plans include assembling and equipping Mars spacecraft on the moon, where gravity is low and raw materials might be used for rocket fuel and breathable air. In addition, some scientists say studying the moon's geology will tell us more about how our solar system formed. The moon's dark, airless surface is a great place to put deep space telescopes. One of the arguments presented in the July 1994 symposium sponsored by the mission from Planet Earth Study Office of Space Science, NASA headquarters, and the University of Maryland at College Park declared that there was a 1 in 1,000 chance of an asteroid or comet battering the Earth with the equivalent impact of 100,000 megatons of TNT. It occurs to me, what the heck is TNT? I don't even know what TNT is. I think of TNT in terms of explosives and maybe some sort of gauge of the explosive level of explosives or something. I don't know what TNT, it's an acronym. I don't know what it stands for. Anyway, the fear of this possibility was led by the conclusion that more than 1 billion people may be killed as a result. Plans to build a ship capable of deflecting the meteorite were proposed, and a campaign to relocate segments of the population to other planets was presented. Establishing an extended human presence on the moon could vastly reduce the costs of further space exploration, making possible even more ambitious missions. Lifting heavy spacecraft and fuel out of the Earth's gravity is expensive. Spacecraft assembled and provisioned on the moon could escape its far lower gravity using far less energy and thus far less cost. Helium-3 can be extracted from lunar rocks to be used for fuel and may even be brought back to Earth. Impeding this possibility is harvesting. 1 ounce of helium-3 requires digging up millions of tons of lunar soil, an enormous effort. public opinion, and interest. The interest in Bush's space plan seems to be almost 50-50. A recent Associated Press poll indicated that Americans are divided on the plan to return to the moon and reach for Mars, with 48% favoring it and 48% opposing. Another poll found... okay, where's the other 4%? Another poll found that 73% think it's important the United States remain the leading country in space exploration, and 55% felt that money spent on space research would be better spent on domestic programs. What would the consequences be if the United States didn't maintain a dominance in space? One of the things, and I don't know if I say it in this paper, but I'm going to go ahead and throw this in here while I'm reading this kind of. So one of the things that I was curious about is international borders in space, international laws, how they apply to borders, and how far up the borders extend. And then I started thinking about the satellites in space, and you've got the surveillance satellites, and then there's who's looking at who and who's spying on whom, and then you've got weapons. I don't know for sure. I tried contacting NASA at one time after I had worked there and asking them, how many satellites do you have up there? And I think I wasn't able to find out, but I basically, what is referred to as space trash, all that stuff that's been launched up into space that, there's probes and I don't know what all is up there. And so I tried finding out, and the best I could do is, in terms of finding out, was I think one of the nice women that answered the phone at NASA Glenn Research Center told me to look it up on heavensandabove.com, I think is what. So I'm calling a government office trying to get information, of which I'm being referred to basically what is it called, a business, another example of privatized resources being used by the government. And is that privatized? Well, anyway, it's business. It's a .com, not a .gov. So I called the government, and they gave me basically a commercial site. So with regard to government information, and I don't know if that's true with military information, that just occurred to me to wonder that. There's something called, again, I learned this at CIS, FOIA. Working at CIS, which was a government contractor, and I learned a lot there. FOIA, F-O-I-A, the Freedom of Information Act, of which is an act that allows, in the United States, people to request information of the government. And as I said, I don't know if that's also true with the military, but and then there's issues with information, whether or not the information is classified and at what level, or what parts of information or documents are available and things like that. But there is something called FOIA, FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act, which entitles the public to request information from the government, whether it's documents or whatever. So, anyway, back to the paper. What would the consequences be if the United States didn't maintain a dominance in space? Where was I? The military has an interest in space. We have commercial satellites. Communications rely heavily on our space program. Some of the work conducted by astronauts includes servicing missions to repair, replace, and maintain existing satellites and probes in space. And so the thrill, the wonder, the aesthetic value of seeing Earth and other planets from space has made our solar system exploration well worth the effort. I think we can all agree. And I'm just going to throw my comments in here with the paper. If you've ever seen the pictures of some of the space shots of the planets and the galaxies and the universe, stars, and all of that, they really are beautiful. And I was thinking recently, gosh, I met someone. I did a lot of chatting on the internet and did a lot of, I talked to a lot of people. I don't know, thousands of people chatting through AOL when that came out on the internet, and I played with that quite a bit. And I don't know, it seemed like I must have talked to about 10,000 people on the internet when that came out, and so there was one person that I met that said that they'd like to, I met a few people that were very interesting, of which one said he was interested in photography and wanted to, of which is one of my interests, and he was interested in photographing the crater on one of the Hawaiian Islands, and I thought, well, that's an interest. I never thought of doing that. I like photography. I've done some backyard and I've done some photography, but I never thought of taking a photograph of a crater on the one of the Hawaiian Islands. That's kind of big, and if you think in terms of the Omnimax theaters, Omnimax movies, of which are one of my favorite things. That's some pretty big photography too. So if you're interested in photography, as they say, the sky's the limit. And I started thinking, gosh, the astronauts up on the space station and that go up in the shuttle and everything, they've got quite an exclusive dib on the photographic subjects. There aren't a lot of photographers that get to go up in the space station and up on the shuttle to capture a shot of the Earth. And so anyway, there's a whole history, and again, I'm off the paper, but there's a whole history of photography and the cameras used for space photography and the cameras that were taken up on the space shuttle, and so there's all of that. But let me continue with this paper, if I can find where I left off. Those first photographs of our entire planet, the very notion of an Earthrise over the moon, provided a thrill. Voyager images of the outer planets fill me with joy for their fierce beauty. Let me send a shout out to Dan there. Dan was the man that wanted to take a photograph of, shoot a photograph of the, is it a crater, a volcano, on the Hawaiian Islands. Thank you, Dan. That was a brain expansion. That really, it increased the size of my perspective. Anyway, on with the paper. I am inspired by the spectacular galactic displays of astronomical beauty, as are many others. The requests from both children and adults from around the world come in daily to NASA asking for information and lithograph images produced by NASA. Teachers rely on resources from NASA to help educate their students in the sciences, astronomy, biology, physics, and earth science, to name a few. Many children dream of growing up and becoming an astronaut or working for NASA on the space program. And let me mention a couple things. The little beep was my little my little something here that was unexpected. But I went through the math series twice trying to become an engineer because I had gone to school part-time over a long span of time, and I got through, I think, the pre-calculus and up to calculus, and then I wound up at NASA working as an administrative assistant, and I really wanted to be an engineer, and I kind of had, I was thinking of science, computer science, engineering, mathematics, and that sort of thing, and I was trying really hard to go as far as I could with all of that, and I kind of got knocked off the rails a few times, and it was much more difficult than I thought it would be. I guess I had issues I had to deal with, of which makes trying to get through school very difficult. And I did retake the entire math series through calculus a second time in an effort to make sure that I knew the math really super well and could get through it. And when you get, I guess I made it through the math series at Cuyahoga Community College. I had some great teachers. I did very well. And I got stuck on calculus, and I think I said before I was kind of like a monkey. I can do the math, but I didn't understand it. And I kind of understand, I understand how it's used and why, but I didn't understand it to the point of being able to sit down and put the equations together and know exactly what they were doing and why. Kind of like a scientific, I don't know. I mean, could you sit down and write an equation, because you know what those numbers and the arrangement of those numbers and those, what are they called, operations. You know what those operations specifically are doing and why. And so anyway, I got through calculus, and I felt like a monkey, and I felt like I'm never going to get through another 6 classes. Just, through the math series, I think there was another 6 classes to go. Just and that was for a bachelor's degree, maybe. I don't know. Was it like 10, 12 math classes, something like that? Was the requirement, and I don't remember what degree that was, but maybe that was engineering. Maybe I was looking at electrical engineering at that time, and I just thought, there's no way I'm going to get through this. I'm stuck right here in calculus, and so anyway. I guess, a lot of, I don't know how to explain it, but I guess, in terms of being an engineer or scientist, at that level to get to a PhD, and I haven't gotten a PhD yet. I'm kind of working on that, and I'm not in the engineering track anymore, or any of this the science kind of stuff. Now I'm heading into public policy, but in terms of all of the math, I don't know. I think in order to do all of that, you have to get to the point where you actually are. You do have the brain of a scientist, which is capable of invention, and so anyway, there's that. I pulled out of that, and I've still got my math books, and maybe someday if I have some time, I'll sit down and still try to force my brain through my math books and understand it and things. But as it is now, anyway, I'll go on with the paper. Space exploration has often been described as if it were art rather than a scientific and technological enterprise. In our civic discourse, space exploration is deemed to be an expression of our culture's vision, energy, optimism, and aspirations. In Europe, the Renaissance encompassed a great flowering of the arts and a great age of transoceanic exploration. What is the value? Risks and risk reduction efforts. Experts in the field gathered to assess the critical risks in space exploration. Bone loss, human behavior and performance, radiation effects, trauma and acute medical problems, advanced life support, food and nutrition, cardiovascular alterations, muscle alterations and atrophy, and neurovestibular adaptation issues were all examined. The Bioastronautics Critical Path Roadmap, CPR, a strategic plan for reducing risks to human health and safety in long-duration spaceflight, has prioritized 50 critical risks and 343 critical questions that must be addressed to ensure the success of missions that require an extended human presence. The spacecraft serves as the crew's first line of defense against the hazardous space environment. NASA has identified design requirements to ensure the safety and reliability of human-rated exploration vehicles. Microgravity is a major concern. In space, there is virtually zero gravity. The Earth has a gravitational pull of 9.8 meters per second squared. And again, there's the calculus thing. The calculations, a lot of what I was doing, and probably most of you already know all of this stuff because you've been through all of this. But maybe for the kids listening that don't know this yet, 9.8 meters per second squared is the rate that is used. Let's see if I can remember this. Well, it's gravitational pull. It's basically, is it a constant maybe? And I don't want to tell you something wrong. But I've tried to explain this in the past. But it's a number that's used to calculate falling objects. And, it just occurred to me that 9.8 meters per second squared, is that the same number that you're going to use on the moon or any other planet? What number do you use in other places? I mean, 9.8 meters per second squared, is that gravity no matter where you are? I don't know. That just occurred to me. And as I said, you have to understand this stuff, and I don't know where the 9.8 came from. That's used in the equations and calculations. And I don't remember. I mean, it was at this point it was almost, what was it, 8 years ago, and I haven't been using it, and I don't remember. I'm trying to. But anyway, 9.8. Figure out where that number comes from, and it's real easy to run a calculation with a 9.8. Oh, no big deal. Yeah, but what is it? What is it? Where did it come from, and how is it used, and what effect does it have? And then it's meters per second squared, which is exponential. So, what is it doing when you have meters per second squared? Well, a certain number divided by second squared. The second squared, what the heck is it doing? It's divided. I don't even want to go there. My brain is going to flatline if I try to think about this right now. Okay, I'll go on. In the microgravity environment of space and the varying gravitational pulls of the moon and other planets, human physiology is at risk. The moon has a gravitational pull of 0.17 that of Earth. And Mars is at 0.38. And, don't quote me on any of this. I've pulled this out of sources, but these are things you need to know. The effects of this environment are known to contribute to bone and muscle deterioration. And the other thing that you need to know is that they're not going to carry things to the second place on a decimal number. How many places does it need to be carried to? When you start working for NASA and working on space programs and contractors and everything, what's the level of detail and accuracy? And do you need 100% on all of your tests? You better make sure you've got 100% when you take the test of launching a space shuttle, because if you don't, it's going to crash. So anyway, studies are currently underway to ascertain the extent of this hazard. Plans to send mice into space in the year 2006 are in progress to evaluate the effects on bone density and balance. A spacecraft will be built to simulate the 0.38 G environment of Mars. And 0.38 G, I think the G is for gravitational force. What are G's? I took physics. That's probably something in physics. I don't remember what that is, but I think that might be simulate the point. I think that might be G. Might be a gravitational pull. Environment of Mars in preparation for the human exploration of the planet. To carry out Bush's space plan, more research is going to have to be conducted, and more technology is going to have to be developed in rocket propulsion and to safeguard astronaut health. Special provisions are made in the area of space medicine to anticipate the specialized medical needs of the crew, including routine and emergency medical care. And as I mentioned mistakes, I just found 2 in my paper that I made here, so there you go. Plans to send fruit flies up to the International Space Station, the ISS, are underway. The experiment is called the Drosophila Behavior and Gene Expression in Microgravity. And the experiment is being conducted to determine the effects of microgravity on genes. Genes are important in food digestion, blood clotting, and healing. Explorers visiting Mars will have to live in habitats where the oxygen is regenerated, wear spacesuits with oxygen masks, drive radiation-proof vehicles, and grow food by adding nutrients to the topsoil that currently seems unable to nourish plants. And these are quotes that I've got here. That was from robot geologists. I guess maybe that's some sort of magazine or publication. The duration of the stay on Mars will be approximately 600 days, quoted from Guidelines and Capabilities. Plans and provisions have been made for the Gallian food system, waste collection system, clothing, recreational equipment, housekeeping, maintenance, photography, sleep accommodations, and crew health care. And that was all part of risks and risk reduction efforts. The robotic alternatives. Of the 11 attempted, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to mention who all these quotes are and stuff, but and maybe in terms of writing a paper and whether or not you're going to present papers, you should cite somehow verbally beyond the quotation marks who's saying these things and where. Of the 11 attempted robotic landings on Mars, only 4 have been successful. However, Jerry Gray, policy director of the American Institute of Astronautics and Aeronautics, said the Spirit robot that had recently landed on Mars was apparently working flawlessly as it readied to explore the planet. The tasks being conducted by the Mars rovers include soil and atmospheric studies. Mars has 95% carbon dioxide in its atmosphere. Earth has an atmosphere with 0.01 to 0.1% carbon dioxide. Where should we land on Mars? Where can we locate water? What are the radiation risks? These are some of the questions being answered by robotic probes. Robots are capable of doing many tasks more efficiently than humans, but they are not yet as smart as humans. The benefits. There are countless numbers of achievements and technology that have surfaced from the space program. Some of the technology that has come out of NASA is used in television satellite dishes, medical imaging, barcoding, vision screening, ear thermometers, firefighter equipment, smoke detectors, sunglasses, automobile design tools, cordless tools, aerodynamic bicycle wheels, thermal gloves and boots, space pens, shocking absorbing helmets, ski boots, fail-safe flashlights, invisible braces, edible toothpaste, joystick controllers, and advanced plastics. Bush contends that human space exploration drives technology improvements that benefit society, such as in computing, communications, and medicine. We have discovered more than 100 planets in the last decade. Robotic explorers have found evidence of water, a key ingredient for life, on Mars and on the moons of Jupiter. The fascination generated by further exploration will inspire our young people to study math and engineering and create a new generation of innovators and pioneers. And most of that was quoted from President Bush. And I'm sorry to say, well, when was this written? This was written back in 2000, hold on. This was written back in March of 2004, so I guess it was President George Bush, but I don't know if it was senior or junior. It doesn't specifically say here. I'm guessing it was probably George W. Jr. Bush. By studying other kinds of life and their environments, we may be able to learn more about life on Earth and how to protect the Earth's environment. We might even be able to understand how life began. Human exploration and settlement of other worlds and the search for life elsewhere will contribute to the development of an emerging cosmic perspective. What is the value? People say that our space program is a luxury and that we should really be concerned about food for the hungry and medical aid for the needy, that to those whose stomachs are empty, the space program is merely a waste of money. However, there are scientists traveling to third world countries in order to maximize land use, to grow crops that will feed millions where only thousands were fed before. NASA's space technology is being used with satellites to help farmers plan, grow, and harvest their crops. And now about the budget. We've got 42 million Americans without health insurance, 12 million children in poverty, and have lost 3 million American jobs. And now this president has the nerve to ask the American people for $1 billion to send people to the moon. And that was quoted from Washington and Bender. There's no good reason to argue that a dollar invested in NASA will yield anything more than a dollar of value elsewhere in the short or long term. And this is part of a quote. But given that economic growth depends on innovation in the long run, and that our economy is increasingly well, this is a new quote. I guess that our economy is increasingly dependent on knowledge. We need some way of driving innovation and expanding knowledge, and NASA seems to serve these purposes. And I'm not sure, but I think this might be from an article entitled "What is the Value?" And I'm getting close to the end here. I've only got one page left to go. The current NASA budget is $86 billion over the next 5 years. This is an average of $17.2 billion per year. Most of the budget is coming from reallocations of $11 billion over a 5-year span. The requested budget for 2005 is $16.2 billion. This includes $483 million in 2005 for Project Prometheus, a nuclear propulsion project, and $428 million in 2005 for Project Constellation. The Crew Exploration Vehicle CEV project, completion of the International Space Station ISS, is expected to cost $6.6 billion. Another $1.8 billion is expected for physical research aboard the ISS. The Apollo program cost $25.4 billion. So, in conclusion, do the benefits outweigh the risks? And this is just one paper. I didn't do a lot of papers on this. You know, the research. This was one class. This is just one research project of which I was able to come up with some resources and ideas and things. But here's my conclusion paragraph. And again, this has a quotation here from What is the Value, of which, well, let me see. What is the Value was a symposium sponsored by the Mission from the Planet Earth Study Office, NASA headquarters, and the University of Maryland at College Park in Washington, D.C. So anyway, that's where this is coming from. Space exploration has become an integral part of our national character, capturing the spirit of optimism and adventure that has defined this country from its beginnings. Quoted from What is the Value? What is the value of space exploration? NASA needs bold human exploration missions beyond Earth orbit to provide focus and inspiration to scientific research and technology development. Exploration is doing risky things without guaranteed results. And that comes from What is the Value? So in terms of whether or not the benefits outweigh the risks, NASA, a worldwide technologically advanced government organization, and space organizations from around the world are striving to reduce the risks associated with space exploration while gaining valuable scientific advancement. There are a lot of questions to be answered, but it seems to me that the benefits of space exploration outweigh the risks. And there's a lot to consider there. Now I think about trying to get to Mars and trying to get back, and I'm almost, I don't see, are we going to, and this is now 44 minutes long, are we going to build the, basically what we have in Cape Canaveral, Florida? Do we need that on Mars in order to launch the rocket back to Earth? Is the Mars program a suicide mission? So this is, I'm thinking about things. How much does it cost? There are a lot of benefits, but there are also, I don't see how the Mars program comes back to Earth from Mars. I don't see, I'm sorry, but I can't figure out how that's going to happen. And I know there are gravity issues, but if you have to build an entire Cape Canaveral to get the rocket off the ground, and as I said, I can't figure out how the Eagle got off the moon and came back to Earth, and anyway, let me cite some of the works that I used. There was an article by William J. Broad, "With Bold Changes, NASA Can Soar Again." That was in the Plain Dealer. I've got some articles from the Plain Dealer. I'm not going to list them all. Some research that was done, articles, I guess, NASA articles, and quotations by President Bush. There was Paul Rieker of the Plain Dealer, Scott Lindlaw of the Plain Dealer, John Mangles of the Plain Dealer. Who else do we have here? I'm looking for names, just, in case you're trying to find, there's Washington Wayne and Brian Bender of the Plain Dealer, Leah Weiss of the Plain Dealer. Who else is here? The symposium that was at, I guess, in Washington, D.C. by the University of Maryland in College Park. And that's about it. And gosh, I feel like the jungle is yelling at me out there. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say right now, because this is almost 50 minutes long, and there's not even any time for commercial breaks in here. In terms, I had more to say, but I feel like the peanut gallery is screaming at me. So I'm going to go ahead and end this for now, and y'all have a great day. Y'all. It's Thursday, April 19th. It's now 8:40 a.m. This is a recording of which will be posted online where you will find it. And my name is Inta Mitterbach. I'm in Lakewood, Ohio, which is a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. We have NASA Glenn Research Center here in the Cleveland area. And it used to be Lewis Research Center, and it's now Glenn Research Center. And named after John Glenn, one of our American astronauts. Oh, there was something else I was going to mention to you that I was not aware of. There are space programs all over the world, and I did not know that. I thought NASA was the only space program, and here's my ignorance and seclusion during my entire life. I knew about the Russian and the American-Russian space race, but I didn't know that the rest of the world was racing too. I didn't know that there were astronauts in China and Mexico. And let's throw some geography in there. And India also. We had and Africa and the Mideast and everything. And throw my 197 countries and territories in there, and you've got space programs, rockets, and satellites potentially being launched all over the world, of which, where's the regulation on that? Where are the laws? There are international laws. What's NATO doing? What are the United Nations doing? And there was one other thing I was going to say with regard. One of the ideas that I thought, oh my gosh, would I love to be the international marketing representative for NASA, but I think I realized I really don't know enough about NASA, and I don't have the education really pursue that. But wouldn't that be a dream job for someone, to travel around talking to people, going to different countries around the world, talking about NASA? And again, 197 countries, every one of those space programs around the year potentially having an international marketing representative, and that's a nice collection of people right there, and that would be an interesting group of people. Get all those people together, but that would be quite a dream job, and maybe someone out there can get there if they know about it and start working on it early and do all the right things, and but in terms of preparing themselves for a job like that and knowing, I mean, at this point, as you all know, I'm 48 years old, and it's kind of difficult to start preparing for a career with NASA. You kind of have to start on that one pretty early, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily impossible, but realizing, what I have and what it takes, I don't think that's the job I'm going to volunteer for. I think there is definitely someone better than me for that job out there. But so, with that, and NASA and space programs and stuff, astronomy, there are, there are, I didn't know that there were museums all over the world. There's a phone book size, fine print book of museums all over the world. And I didn't even know that they existed. There are national parks all over the world. I didn't even know that existed. And zoos, the local zoos, the national zoos, they all those countries out there, they've got them. And what else? So, planetariums. Arecibo, what is it called? The Arecibo Observatory, the largest radio observatorio. Observatorio. There you go. The largest radio observatory in the world is in Puerto Rico. The Arecibo Observatory, I think it's called. And I didn't know any of these things existed. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, grew up here, and I worked and lived in Huntsville, Alabama for 10 years. And I have been living in the dark, I think, for 48 years. I didn't even know it existed. So I hope there's some illumination for everyone out there. And anyway, have a great day, everyone. It is now 8:45 a.m. and it is the year 2012 and April 19th. And the interior temperature here is 64.4 degrees. It's a little cooler outside, a little bit cloudy. And with the insect count of 1, it occurred to me, we still have cooler temperatures here, and the insects are probably a little more, dormant or hibernatory, maybe. They aren't all out there yet, so, I don't know if my insect count of 1 caused any alarm to anyone, but, maybe it's just that it's still a little cool out for the insects, but... Anyway, I'll try to get this posted quickly, and I'll get back to work there with my weed pulling directive from the city of Lakewood. That's going to keep me busy for the rest of my life. I never will get a job pulling all those weeds in my yard. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.